there he is.
Oh, Matt, you're such a gem.
Got
Thank you, Matt.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
Barb, we're recording.
Enjoy.
That's the inventory in Glen Olden, which is pretty sick, you know? And Glen Olden's a good market because it's in a borough school district, so that's a pretty good school district. They've come up way, way up in the ratings over the years, so Inverse. So which one should we do? It doesn't matter to me. We'll do the first one, I guess.
Yeah, 260.
So it's a twin for 260. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open this up.
I can pick any house, right?
Yeah, and this is going to be just a quick overview of buyer closing costs. Guys, you don't write an agreement of sale, close it, and then send the buyer their closing costs 3 days later. That's
Right.
illegal. It's illegal. Don't forget, DocuSign is time stamped. If the real estate commission comes in and they'll show up and say, hi, I want to see your files. And they'll sit there, they'll look at your sale files and they see that number one, you never did closing costs or they're 5 days after the contract was signed. Big problem. You get fined, the office gets fined, you know, so we have to do these things the right way. So the reality with a buyer is that you send them the closing costs before you write the contract, or at least before you send the contract, and they sign it. We don't, Dominic, I'm going to refer to him because he's the law of the land in here. He does not want you using mortgage company printouts and getting that signed, or just popping them in the closing cost file in command. Bruce's printout, Joyce's, or some obscure lender in no man's land, you know. We've hit a couple things where I'll say to somebody recently, what's the mortgage company charges? What do the mortgage company charge? They won't send me their fees until I send them a signed agreement of sale. I'm like, what?
So we write an offer, then review, or review it with
You
the client
write
and then write
the
offer?
closing costs first, and you send them, and you go over them first before you send them the agreement of sale, or simultaneously, but they need to see, under law, they're supposed to see the seller or buyer closing costs before they sign the contract. You don't, what good is it 3 days later if you send them the closing costs and they don't have enough money? Isn't that fun? Now, I would be sending them if they're this tight, like, I'm seeing people that says they can go to $1,800 a month in a payment. So now that's not a price range, that's a payment. What do you do with that? You've got to go on Bright and do the closing costs of that particular house to see, once you get the the principal and interest, the taxes, the homeowner's insurance, and the mortgage insurance premium. There are 4 things in a low down payment loan. If that exceeds $1,800, why are you showing that house? We've had that instance where somebody showed a house and then they came back and the buyer couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
That's a little disappointing. Another thing that happens is you show houses that are out of the person's price range. What the heck are you, what psychologically are you setting yourself up for failure completely, because a $250,000 house is going to be a better property than a $210,000 house. So you show them all the wrong houses. What if, and now you've got, do you know how hard it is to roll back the price range for a buyer? Sorry, you really can't afford a $250,000 house in Springfield. You can only afford a $199,000 house in Springfield. Totally different house, possibly totally different township. So you've got to do some of this kind of stuff ahead of time to make sure, if Bruce is the one who'll give you a payment amount, you've got to look at the houses, and it's a little extra work. You've got to do the payment, at least the payment part of this. You've got to do the payment part of this to see if that payment is less than what they're qualified for. Because it's, you know, you just don't wanna disappoint people, or they'll think you're a lousy realtor.
That's such
which
a
in way
huge
you
help.
sorta are.
That is such a huge help, because that is exactly the situation I was in this weekend, and Bruce was like, look, whatever you end up showing him, he cannot go over 2,500.
Right.
Like,
Right,
that
right.
is his
And
absolute
some
max.
people will give you a price range, but
Mhm.
that doesn't work if you're in a real high dollar tax area,
Right.
like Upper Chi, their taxes are really high there.
Right.
Upper Darby, taxes are high there.
Mhm.
You know, if you're in a lesser, you know, tax area, then the payment, they can afford a little bit more house. So, but I know it's extra work, but you really should at least do the payment part to make sure that they're in the right place. You have a question?
So, but so then, we'll just use Bruce as the example, like, in the pre-approval, he'll tell you they can afford a $200,000 house, or they can afford a $300,000 house, that's correct, but he doesn't tell you what the payment is.
Sometimes he
afford,
does,
you
and
gotta go in
sometimes he
here and
doesn't.
figure it
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if he
out.
tells
You
you
just
that.
don't rely on them to tell you what the
No,
payment
right.
is.
I mean, if he says you can go up to 250, I would call him and ask him what the payment is on that.
And ask your clients too, ask your buyers, like, what monthly payment are you comfortable with?
But some of them don't know what they are or not.
Right, yeah,
But
right.
so like, I have a buyer right now, she's pre-approved for $400,000, which I had a party over, but she doesn't wanna pay any more than
Right.
$1,700 a month.
Which is a
So
much
now
lower
we're like
price.
320, 350.
Right.
So
And she
what they're
obviously has
pre-approved
some
for,
money down.
And depending on what she's putting down.
yeah, what they're
So
pre-approved
it's
for
not,
is not
it's a
necessarily
totally
what they're
valid
comfortable with.
question to ask the buyer, what are they wanna pay?
Yes.
Because you take them out, you show them what they're sometimes they're qualified for 650 and they only wanna look at 325.
Yeah.
Now you do the payment and it's $1,800 more than what they wanted to spend.
Right.
Now what do you do with that? So, you know, guys, you gotta get this. All right, we're gonna do this quick. We're gonna do so on Bright, here's this, well, it's a nice house, guys, 260. Who has a buyer for a twin in Glen Olden for 260? All right. All right, so here we are in buyer closing costs. So we'll use the asking price. So the settlement date is important. And I'll
You
hit
Can you
hit the
explain
B
how you
with the money,
Oh, how'd I get
yeah,
there?
show them
All
where
right.
to click.
Do I have to go back?
Oh, I see it.
Oh, here. It's B and a dollar sign, or S and a dollar sign. Buyer closing costs, seller closing costs. I'm just gonna give you some tricks of the trade, guys. When a buyer settles on a property, listen up, FHA people, VA people, minimum down people, 3% down conventional people. When a buyer settles on a property, they pay interest from that day to the end of the month. If you settle on June 2nd, you just saddled that buyer with 28 days interest at the table. If they're cash poor, you don't settle on the second or third or whatever of the month, because if you settled on May 31st, if the mortgage company could make that date, they pay 1 day's interest at the table. Mortgage payments always are delayed 30 days or more. So if you settled on June 3rd, their first payment is not due until August 1st. So it gives them some breathing room.
Mhm.
But that June
That's right.
3rd date will push their closing costs up possibly another $2,000. So always think about that. If they're very tight, don't settle on the 3rd of the month. All right? That rule of thumb goes back 25 years in my career.
I never knew that, Marcia.
I
You
didn't know
never
that
knew
either.
that?
I never knew
There
that.
you go. Because what happens is, I used to work in.
We're closing on June 2nd.
Well, there you go.
Rough
I never
Never
know, June 2nd, there you go. Now, some lenders, maybe they'll push, maybe you can push the settlement back to May 31st, or maybe they want to charge that 30 day, that's a lender call. All right, so we're gonna settle on this property.
I just got nauseous.
What the hell?
You're good.
That's why you're in this place.
You're good.
Advance this,
You're good.
people.
Quick question, so you said that's for like first time buyers who were tight on cash, like, what if they're not tight on cash, would you just say, okay, pay that interest anyway?
Yeah, I mean, if they wanna settle June 15th and pay 15 days interest, their first payment is not due until August 1st. So if they've got tons of money, they're not gonna care.
Okay, but it's
But
going
if-
toward their mortgage anyway.
But I mean, but if they're really tight, if they only have enough money to do 3.5% FHA down in settlement costs, or they're asking for an assist, yeah, I wouldn't be throwing in an extra $1,800 in interest onto it. How do you advance this calendar?
So you have to actually type in,
Yeah,
Well,
click
where do I
it, click somewhere
Oh,
else.
settlement date,
Yeah,
05. Is it gonna bring up another calendar?
yeah, you'll see, it'll auto-populate,
Where?
you'll see, finish.
just keep going, 2022,
There you
yep.
go.
Oh, there we are. All right, let's do it. It's a working day. All right. Guys, I'm not good on these kind of computers, so.
I'm ready to step in if you
I
need me,
know, I
Marcia.
have to step in. So, all right, so here we are. It's Glen Olden Borough. It auto-populates the taxes because we came into this through the listing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. You can do just buyer closing costs if you just want to demonstrate any old closing costs and you don't have the house in mind. You can click on buyer closing costs and do this, but if you go through the listing and click on B with a $sign, it'll auto-populate some of the information in here from that listing. All right? Interest rate. Let's do 5.5. Seller assist. Are we going to do a seller assist? We
No,
got
you're not.
No.
Not today.
Right, percent, well, we can close them, but
Really?
I just have one, yeah.
No way.
No way.
John, what did you have?
It was 5% assist,
Holy moly.
but then they replaced the roof and asked us to come down to 3, so we're like,
Oh, all right.
Oh,
Was that Franklin? What was
Yeah,
it?
Franklin.
And you guys
So,
got
I mean,
a roof
you know,
out of it?
Whatever.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
you can do
It
a
was off market,
percentage.
so-
Unicorn.
Oh.
It was on market and then they took
We
it
should
off
have led
market.
with that.
And I was like, let me jump in here now because
There
if
you
it's
go.
on market, we're screwed.
Right. All right. There's limits to assists. Who knows what they are? What's the limit percentage-wise on a conventional sale?
5 or
6%.
6?
No, wrong.
Is it 5?
Wrong. 3.
Unconventional?
On conventional
Oh, this was
loans,
FHA, right?
3%. That's as much money as the seller's allowed to give. Memorize this. 3%. FHA, 6%. Okay? So if you have a buyer who's really tight, the only way to get him enough money to go to settlement might be to go FHA and get a 5 or 6% assist. All right?
Okay, so conventional loan is 3%
Right,
limit,
right.
FHA is
Right,
6.
right. I mean, now there might be some, there might be some lender out there who, you might have to come up here with that.
Is the 6% same for VA too?
I think so.
Okay.
When I first got my license, this will really date me, guys. When I first got my license, the Vietnam War was raging.
Oh my gosh, Marcia.
Jesus.
I got licensed in 1976. Calculate that, you're
So lots of lead-based paint.
No, but lots of VA buyers.
Yeah.
The war was over and they were streaming home and VA.
Sure.
I sold 1,000 houses VA and then that war went away, right? And now we stopped doing VA loans for a long time and now they're sort of back again.
Wow.
But I'm not, I have to think about it, Can you get a 6% assist VA?
Yes.
Okay, there's your answer.
So FHA is 6% and conventional is 3%.
Conventional can be 6.
It does depend.
10% down.
With 10%
Are
down.
you gonna sit in here and correct everything?
Stay here,
Stay here.
You asked me a question.
All right, so we're going to do FHA. I'm just demonstrating. Now, we all know what Bruce charges. Bruce has sort of a flat fee for closing costs. It's like $1,200. But if you're using a lender that you've never heard of before, how do you know what their charges are? You don't know. So this is my conversation. Hi, did you get a cost sheet from that lender? No. Well, then you better call that lender up and get a cost sheet. You need a cost sheet from the lender. How would you know how to do this if you don't know what their charges are? Because Bright is traditionally, I would guess, over $1,000 off. It's low. It's always low. So what I do for Bruce, if I'm helping somebody to do this, I told you, Bruce, I can't run this machine.
It's tough, I know. It's
I can't run a Mac. It's too weird for me.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going down to closing costs. See this? This might be high now, what I do. If you see this $200, this is never right, guys. You have to get a cost sheet from the lender to know what their lender is charging. It's not, do they want the loan? Then good. If they want the loan, you get a cost sheet from them, right? They send you a pre-approval letter, a pre-qualification letter, and they send you a cost sheet. Now, lately I've hit it twice. Get a cost sheet. They won't give me a cost sheet. I'm like, what do you mean? They'll only give me a cost sheet when I send them a fully executed agreement of sale. I said, well, that's not good enough. You're going to change lenders. You're going to call Joyce or Bruce. We need a cost sheet. I don't know what their charges are, but I know what Bruce's charge is. Bruce charges a flat fee. So what I do for Bruce or Joyce, I take that doc prep fee. See, that's easy. This is just an easy change. And I change that to $1,200.
You don't change the mortgage origination
Where are you?
at the
At
top
the
of
top
that
of that.
section.
Well, you can put it, to be honest with you can put it anywhere.
Yeah.
We just have to cover the charges.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you get a cost sheet from a lender, some of these, they don't add up. The underwriting is, they'll call it something different. They'll call flood cert, they might not courier, they might not, they call them different things. But my theory is as long as you lift that charge from the cost sheet and insert it in bright, you're demonstrating the amount of money that they need to close. That's the point of this, is that you're demonstrating money. So Anne Marie, are you with me? So when I help somebody out with Bruce, Joyce, or Jerry, I change that $200 charge to $1,200.
So instead of you itemizing, you just put it in as one
Yeah,
to
but
cover
Bruce
it.
doesn't itemize.
Right.
He just has a flat band, $1,200. So I just put.
Yeah,
you
and then
just
you're gonna
wanna
see
have this.
every lender does
Do
it a little bit
differently.
differently, so you're covering yourself if you're not sure what lender they're
Right.
gonna be
You
using, or if you didn't
cannot
get a cost sheet from
Get
them.
3 weeks out from settlement and find out that the buyer doesn't have enough money. Because if you know Bright is low, it's always low. Because it doesn't calculate the lender charges correctly. It just sort of has these basic like mortgage discount. We don't even use, you know what mortgage discount points? That is in the days where the rates, oh God forbid we go back to this again, where the rates get higher and higher, now we're at 8, now we're at 9. You can literally have the buyer pay discount points up front as part of their closing cost and buy their rate down. This goes way back to like.
Yeah, we haven't had to do that in a while.
We haven't had to do that for 10, 15 years, but God forbid, do you know that's what that is? Mortgage discount points, you buy the rate down. So I don't know where the break point's gonna be on that with these rates. If it gets to 7 or 8, you might see lenders charging a point or 2, which is upfront money, to buy the rate back down to 5.
Right.
That's what that is. If somebody asks, because if somebody asks you this stuff, you can't sit there and go, I don't know, I never heard of that before, you know? That was back in the 80s. Right? Anne Marie, right?
Yes, it was.
Oh my God. All right.
I didn't get my
Question, can
I didn't get my license in the 90s though. But I bought houses in the 80s.
Quick question, you had said, other than like our in-house lenders, because they're wonderful, if they don't give you, because you're saying we have to do this before we sign an agreement of sale.
Yeah.
And if you can't get it,
Then pad it with $1,000.
then
You
just
don't know
pad.
what their charge
So
is.
just
gonna
make-
be.
so
Because it's better to
So
be
just
high,
add it.
Yeah, it's
obviously.
better to be
Then,
way high
right.
than to be $1,000 low. And
Exactly.
then, now you're looking
All
for
right.
a gift letter from mom because they don't have enough money.
Okay.
You know, I mean, the
So if you
stuff
don't have
we
the
do.
info, go high.
Yeah, go high. What? Who says that, go high? I don't know.
Well, you know what, the buyer always feels good when they get a check, when they go home with a check, right?
Right.
So if you overestimate, and I always would say that to my clients, I would say, look, I'm overestimating so that you don't feel, when you get to the table, you're short, you'll usually get a check back and you'll feel good about that. But I always overestimate a little bit, so. Because remember, these are just estimated closing costs, so.
All right, so anyway, these charges are what Bright names this stuff. But if you do get a printout, you're gonna see things named differently. Don't panic. Lift that charge and just stick it somewhere. But if you have, we do not want you, by the way, to get the lender printout signed and put in command. Dominic wants you to do, and I know, Dominic wants you to do your own on Bright, so you need to know how to do this. So guys, if you were a full-time realtor, you need to know how to do this.
It's very easy once you get used to it.
Yeah, it really is.
You just
Yeah.
plug and chug.
Yeah, exactly, just plug stuff in. Now, just so, see, interest at the end of the month, that's 1 day. Can you imagine if that's 28 days? 1 day's 37. So 28 days will be 28 times $37. So you're gonna push those closing costs way up if you close on the 2nd of the month. So my recommendation is you just don't do that. If it's too close to May 30th, you'll never make it to May 31st, then go to June 15th. At least put it in the middle of the month if you can. Try to keep these charges down. Especially, as I say, if you're working with, a millionaire, they're not gonna care. Here's your title policy. Just let this, I think 900 is for condos. Am I right? Right? If it's not a condo, I think you can take this out of here. Endorsement 900s for condominiums.
I'm not sure.
I know.
I just always left it.
I will, then leave it, because you want to pad these costs, okay?
I did, I left it.
All
You
right.
can always call the title
Right.
company and ask them.
Okay, let's go back up to the top. We'll come down, why did you buy a Mac?
It wasn't me, it was Matt Curry.
Oh,
I
Mac.
know,
No,
us old
I
heads.
can't run
Us
this
old
thing.
heads, we
You
do
had
not
to come
know
in
Mac.
early and turn it on for me. I can't run a Mac. I just
Marcia, we gotta get with the program, come
The
on,
first time
girl.
I tried it with my daughters, I'm down here on these bottom, I didn't want to go there, and these screens are winging in and winging out. I'm like, oh my God, and I was trying to do an agreement of sale, I'm in Williamsport for somebody, and I can't run her thing. All right, transfer tax. It auto-populates. I'm not sure they all auto-populate, but you should know this. What township this charges more than 1%?
Upper Darby.
Upper Darby,
And Radnor,
Radnor,
and Upper Providence.
and Upper Providence. Now, I think that Bright might be up to speed by now with that, but I'm not sure.
Never assume, because that
I
catches a lot of people. I don't know if they are or not, but
I think
you just need to
Upper
know that-
Darby wasn't as of last week.
it was
So
not,
maybe it
okay.
is now.
Well, that's the newest one that changed their
Right.
transfer tax. But yeah, you wanna make sure that you do know that so that you fill that in properly, because that makes a difference in the payment.
Is that on just like the township website or?
You can find it there. Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Homeowner's insurance is usually unpaid. I would change that box to unpaid, because you want to give them the correct, if it says prepaid, that means they went to their insurance company before settlement and paid for their homeowner's policy, which they can do. And then you have to bring a paid receipt to settlement showing the title company that you paid for your homeowner's insurance. But usually that the homeowner's insurance company will send the policy and the bill to the title company, and you'll pay for your first year right there. And you have to guess at this. Do you know a rule of thumb? I used to say $350 $1,000. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll use $4 $1,000. So $4 times $200,000 would be $800.
Mhm.
So let's put $1,000 in here.
Wait, how did you get that?
It's usually $4. It's about $4 $1,000.
Okay.
So you take the sale price of the house times $4 and you put that in there. Or call the insurance company. Call John Campo and get a quote. John Campo, by the way, it's Safeguard Insurance. I'll give them a plug. They will insure properties with knob and tube, which is that old wiring
That's
that
right.
nobody else will insure. So if you want to get a deal through, John can give you a policy for knob and tube wiring, and then once it's removed, you can flip that to a different company.
Wow.
You can flip it. that good information?
That's amazing, yes.
Okay, good. All right, home warranty, I mean, Dominic wants you to put it, I don't always put home warranty in because buyers don't usually pay for home warranties, but if they want one, you can put it in there. And then these are all just demonstrations of the money that they would need. So if they're gonna do a home inspection, let's say that's 500, these prices are all going up. And termite, you had a recent termite inspection, what's it called, 125, now it used to be like 85.
Oh my gosh, I've been putting 100 there.
All right.
125?
I don't know, every company's different. And radon, I think it's about 125, right?
Home inspection though, you don't pay at closing.
Right. No, Dominic wants us to demonstrate it here though. And I don't necessarily, but they need to know
Yeah.
that they still
Gotcha.
need this money if they're gonna do a home inspection.
Okay.
Even though
That
it's
makes sense.
paid, they go to the home inspection and the home inspector's there and they write the guy a check right there. It's not, we're not involved in that.
Yeah.
We're not
Well, that's
paying-
why it says prepaid.
Right, right. All right. Septic inspection, water inspection, that would be if you have a septic or a well, or in Glen Olden, attorney's fees, association, that would be auto-populated if you're doing a homeowners association or a condo, so that would just fill in there. Okay, here's your title costs. Here's, see this blank box, what do you think would go in there?
Conveyancing.
Conveyancing, you've done enough deals to do
Yeah.
that. Conveyancing. So we have 2 conveyancing companies. They pick up their fees at closing, so I think Anna is $300. Anna Crosby. If there's something else, you would put it in there. Don't forget that, because that's a charge, okay? Now, this is the part that's crazy. These are your tax escrows. See the lender escrows? There's 2 things that go on in settlement. 2 things. The lender, if there's a mortgage, will pick up a lot of money to set up an escrow account. And that is pulled at settlement and it goes to the lender and they set up your escrow accounts. County tax 6 months. Why 6, 6, and 12? Well, let me explain. I'll just do this really quick because we could spend an entire class teaching tax correlations. It's an entire class. And I want to do this other stuff. Who can stay past 12 o'clock? Can you stay a little bit? I want to go over these.
Well, we have the
addendums.
agent advisory board.
Yeah, the
Okay,
agent
well,
advisory
guess what,
committee.
I'm gonna have to do this another, this is so important though, this is why Paul Cologne got his deal this week.
Yeah.
Because he put 3 addendums with his offer, and he got the deal. And he got the deal FHA from a conventional buyer, because we were slick. We put all that together. It made me, I don't know what to do, because this is really important, so I don't.
Well, just, everybody explain lender's closing real quick and then you got 20 minutes.
All right. So anyway, the escrows and the reimbursements, the escrows the mortgage company pulls and keeps that money to set up your escrow account. The reimbursements to the seller, you're paying them back for last year's paid taxes. So the escrows go for next year and the reimbursements go for taxes that have already been paid. They're 2 different things. Rule of thumb, it's about 12 months taxes in the rent. So if you added all those figures up, you'd probably get 1 year's tax number. Sometimes it's a little bit higher. I used to jimmy this up a little bit if I knew they were tight. Because if you add up 6 and then it would be on the buyer side, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 5. That's 7 months, and that's 6 months, that's 13 months of taxes. Sometimes you can, push that back to 5.
Yeah, you just have to look at it. You're going to pay for taxes on the house the months that you live in it, and you're going to reimburse the seller for the taxes that they already paid for the months that they lived in the house. That's how I always look at it.
Yep, right. And people will get all bent out of shape with this. Why am I paying it twice? You're not paying it
Yeah.
twice. One is for next year, one is for last year. That's the easiest way to explain it. So that's that, right? That is that. So you have a summary down here. So these are your closing costs. Oh my God. Get a PC. Preview. There it is. What do they need? Go to the bottom. They need cash deeded settlement. Did I put in the down payment? I didn't put in the down payment.
No.
That looks really low to me. Yeah. I'm just
Well, you put
doing-
in down payment, you just didn't put earnest deposit.
Well, I don't care about, if you're trying to demonstrate how much money they need when you first meet with them, don't put earnest deposit in there, because that skews the amount at the bottom.
Mhm.
They think that they need less, but they don't realize that some of that's in a deposit. So I just don't put an earnest deposit in.
Okay.
You just do the total down.
I just do the total so that they know how much money they need. Now, did I miss something here? That thing seems awful low, 15.6 to buy 200.
That's what I
Oh,
got.
it's FHA.
But
all right.
Marcia, I always put the earnest deposit. Why wouldn't you put the?
You would if you're doing it when you know the heck you're writing an agreement of sale. But let's say you're having a consultation.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
You
gotcha.
just want to meet
I see what
people.
I understand,
Show them how
correct.
much money they need generally to buy.
So this is just for your consultation. If you were to do it at writing up an offer, you would put their earnest in
Yeah,
because that's
you
money.
would.
It's still part of the whole total, but that's money they already put in.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's it, guys. This is it. You print it out. What do you do with this? You print it out or you download it as a PDF and you upload it into DocuSign and you send it to the buyer before they sign the agreement of sale.
Even better, have it ready during your showing.
Right. You can do that. You can take it. But if you're showing 5 houses, you gotta take 5 of them.
I do it every time.
All right.
I'm a nut.
Well, you're
The
not.
seller's disclosure and a rough
That's
estimate
good.
of close.
That's good. All right, so that's that, okay? Question, I'm always, I'll go over it with you line by line, to be honest with you, when you're writing something. That just gives you an idea. As I say, my trick is to not write an agreement of sale to the second day of the month. Because you're gonna drive that interest rate.
Well, I just did that last night.
Yeah, you did, I saw it, but I didn't say anything.
Like, that's what the counter was. That's not,
Right.
that
I
wasn't
mean,
the
if you
original date I
have to, you
had.
have to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? If you have an agreement of sale on like June 2nd, you're paying 28.
I called Bruce first.
It would have been, they might not
This
have
is my
enough money.
that floor plan.
I cut my teeth on Chester properties. Chester Parkside, my dad's real estate office was in Brookhaven. So we had at one time we had 51 listings in Toby Farms.
Wow.
My office. I mean, is that ridiculous? Have you ever heard?
It's amazing.
Is that amazing?
Yeah.
So I did all low price ranges for years and years and years, and boy, we had to, we put people on payment schedules. We had like a little cash register lady.
Wow.
They'd come in every week with $100, so they had enough money to buy a house.
So funny.
Yeah, we did crazy stuff. We sold a lot of properties, though.
Yeah, you did.
A lot. All right, does everybody have one of these? I'm going to go over this fast.
Yeah.
This is a recap. Anne Marie, you want one of these?
Well, seller net sheet pretty easy.
Yeah, the seller net sheet is commission and transfer tax. They're the two big nut items. If you need,
Oh, yeah, this looks very
if you
simple.
need,
Okay.
everything else is, their tax prorations will be automatic. They'll get that money credit in there.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not gonna do that today. So I thought this was more important.
What's the title of what the one we're looking at now?
What?
The seller?
Well, we're not doing it. I'm gonna do this instead. I have 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then we're gonna get thrown out of here. Put this whole thing is a cheat sheet, so that you can put this in your white contracts book, and you can pull, I would go over the options with a buyer at the consultation as to how crazy this market is, and see if any of these addendums applies to the buyer to make their offer stronger. We just used all 3 of these and we got the deal.
Nice.
So, it does work. But you have to have a buyer this gal was sick, she's on her 4th offer, and she just wanted a house. So we went over these, Paul did, and she did all 3 of them. So this is directly from Dominic Cardone's Breakfast with Your Broker that he went over, and I thought, I'm gonna make a printout. Because when you're interviewing somebody, how are you gonna remember Dominic Cardone's Breakfast with Your Broker class that was 4 weeks ago to be able to talk to people about the way the market is? So I wrote down his tricks of the trade, and you're gonna put this in your white contracts binder. And when you run into a buyer, you might wanna say, well, we could do this or this or this or this or this. What do you wanna do? Because that's how this market is. So number 1, he said, a substantial deposit. No more of this $1,000 stuff, not even 5, or like 1 in 3, no. Big money. If it's FHA, it's 3.5% down. They have to have 3.5% down of their own money to even go FHA. It's the rule. Why can't you get the whole 3.5% deposit, down payment on line 1 is the deposit?
You should.
You should. And if you go over this with them ahead of time, it's not, you're having a buyer interview today, you know, do this paper. Because it's not fair
First
to
read
them.
it, Rob, first
It's
read it.
not, I'm being recorded, hi everybody. It's not fair to them to be sitting down, you've got 2 hours to write an offer, they're due at 6 p.m. and you're going over them and going, well, I think you should put your entire FHA down payment in line 1 as a deposit. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't want to do that. But if you plant these seeds ahead of time, it'll make it so much easier to do, okay? So maybe the entire down payment. The most recent one, we had $100,000 in line 1. And guess what? We did not get it.
You didn't get it?
We didn't get that. No, because it was a mortgage and cash buyer.
Oh,
I'm questioning whether all these people really have cash or whether they're waiving the mortgage contingency and taking their shots. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you waive the mortgage contingency, you can go in as a cash buyer, but if you don't get your loan, you lose your deposit. So I'm wondering now, you know, I don't know whether we would close something like that. We would want to see the financials.
that makes me so nervous.
But
So, yeah, I know, because I'm like, how many people are actually taking money out of the, like,
this is
$500,000 out of their 401ks to buy these
$1,150,000
houses in cash?
$1,150,000.
No
We went in
way.
$1,150,000, waived all inspections with a $100,000 deposit. We did not get that sale. It went cash. So bulletproof your transactions, that's the
People
next
just
thing.
got $1 million.
All right, so anyway, maybe if the cash entire sale price on line 1, is that crazy? Cash offer for $250,000, why can't you put $250,000 as the deposit? Somebody just did that. That's what people are doing out there that you're in competition with. You need to know what's going on out there with the competition. They're putting these huge deposits on line 1. And one of them that I just saw was the entire sale price. It was a deposit. And this is these are Dominic's rules, not mine. So the consultation needs to be fierce.
Right.
Remember, Anne Marie, remember fierce conversations?
Yes.
Fierce conversations. You need to be able, I mean, I'm so old at this that I could just be so fierce, you know?
So I think the important thing is, we don't want anybody to feel like they have to do this, but we
Right.
want to educate them about
Right.
this, because some people may not be able to do the things that we're asking or may not feel comfortable with it, and that's our job to let them know, hey, in this market, this is what they're doing.
This is what
And if you're
other
comfortable with it,
people
this
are
is what
doing.
we'll do. But yeah, I definitely, you know, so I think we're educators, right? So we want to
Right.
educate our
I
clients,
said
and that's
that
where I think
we're
this is good.
Consultants, that's what I
Correct.
used at the beginning of the class.
Yes.
Real estate counselors. This is what's going on in the
Yes.
marketplace.
Uh-huh.
What can you do any of these
Yeah.
to make your offer better? And you can have this, guys, put it on your own stationery, I don't care, you know, or rewrite it. Okay? Clause that states that the seller can leave any remaining personal property or debris. This was Dominic, it's not a bad idea.
That's amazing.
Clause that states that the seller can leave any remaining personal property or debris and the buyer will be responsible for removing it. That would take a huge weight off of people
Sure.
that are trying to get out, you know, before settlement on Tuesday, because their settlement's Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, and they're there to what, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Cleaning? Or hiring a hauler? So that's a risk, but guess what? You want the house? Maybe you need to do something that crazy like that, so think about that. Is this good stuff?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Great.
It's
Add a
valuable.
seller warranty coverage. Well, obviously, you could have your buyer buy a warranty for the seller. Put it in the bottom of the agreement of sale. Buyer will, upon an execution of this agreement of sale, by seller coverage. What does that mean? What does that mean? What am I saying? Why is that important?
That the sellers can claim any
Right, the
damages.
seller can claim any problems during the term of the agreement of sale. So what if the hot water heater goes a week before settlement and you had bought the seller warranty coverage? They would get a free hot water heater. This isn't buyer coverage, this
$100.
is seller coverage.
Yeah.
But as I say, in times of desperation, we get desperate,
Right.
right?
No, you said it as an you said that the buyer would pay for that, but I think I heard, I can't remember who said, like, the agent offered to pay for it.
Agents can offer to pay for warranties. I've bought warranties many, many times, you know, in lieu of a settlement gift or whatever. If I'm having trouble with the home inspection or something, like, well, the hot water heater's 30 years old, and I'll say, look, just let's get this done. I'll buy you a warranty. And I have bought warranties because it's a tax deduction fee. Every dime you spend,
And you can cancel it the day before, right?
what?
You can cancel the day of settlement.
You
Day of
can,
settlement.
but I'm talking about buyer coverage. I'm talking about
Oh, okay.
buying
Gotcha.
a buyer a warranty. You know, imagine, yeah, I'll buy a warranty and then you cancel it on.
Yeah, that would be
Just
good.
kidding.
Business
Sorry, I changed my
job.
mind. I'm not buying you a warranty. All right.
You're making
Four,
it to the table. it's worth it.
post-possession, you've got this.
Yeah.
Post-possession addendum to the agreement of sale.
Yep.
You could literally put this in your offer and give the seller a week to leave. Wouldn't that's like,
Take your
it
time.
might throw the other deal right out the window.
Right.
Take your time, you've got a week. Now, I think some lenders don't want you to do this for more than.
So you
a
don't
week.
send that over to the lender.
Yeah, you wouldn't say, some of this
Addendum.
stuff's secret. Talk to Marcia. Marcia, the famous Marcia that hides addendums from lenders.
Remember
I'm
you're being
famous
recorded.
for it.
Oh, yeah, you are being recorded?
I'm a famous hide the addendums, Bruce.
Well, Bruce will tell you, I don't wanna see it.
Right.
You know, I'll tell you, any lender will say, you don't need to, don't give us.
We just did one where we hid the addendum from the lender.
Yeah.
And the lender said, don't show it to me. I said, okay, we won't. All right, so and I gave you these, put them in your binder. Guys, use this stuff. This could be the difference. If you give the seller a week to leave, it might be the difference between, you know, if all else is equal and we could stay here, why not? I like that offer better. I don't have to leave.
Right.
All right, escalation clause. You don't like to use these, but sometimes you have to use them, you know? What are you gonna do, you know? Sometimes it's better to just go with your highest and best. Escalation clauses are for buyers that want to cheapen $1,000 at a time.
Well, if they don't have it.
Right,
yeah.
up to a certain price, you know? Okay, I'm gonna go in at 275, but I'll go to 285. I'm gonna do an escalation clause, and it's gonna be in increments of $500. Well, listing agents don't like that either. It's a lot of work. And then what happens if you have two escalation clauses? You can't escalate against another escalation clause. So now what do? Now the listing agent's calling you back and going, I have 4 offers that have escalation clauses, so bring me your highest and best.
Well, I'm like, how many people are seeing don't know escalation clauses
Right.
in your offers?
Right.
Because I'm not dealing
And
with it.
I'm
First
putting
time.
it in here because it's something people are using.
Sure.
We're using it.
Sure.
And, you
So
know,
is-
our,
Is that the same as the appraisal?
no. No, an escalation clause just raises the price, let's say $1,000 over the highest offer up to a certain, you can put a limit on where
Do you put that in the additional terms, or is that a separate form?
No, it's here.
I don't see
Here.
it.
Oh, did I give you, I
No.
didn't give you an escalation clause?
No,
no.
Oh, all right, well, then that's what it is. I think I ran out of time.
No worries.
If you need an escalation clause, guess who you call me?
Marcia, just real quick, so I understand that. The escalation clause says, I will go X amount of dollars over the highest offer. Is that what you're saying
Up
it says?
up to a limit.
Okay.
And you can go by
yeah,
increments,
Yeah,
right?
so, yeah, and then you put in increments of $1,000. So if they have an offer of, the highest offer they have is $260, you would go to $261.
We don't like using escalation clauses because they're not obligated to show the offer that's higher, right?
No,
they could come back and just say,
Well, no, there is a
Yeah.
form. No, there's a form. There's a form in the PAR docs that says they have to list what the other.
I was gonna
offers
say,
are.
there's
No,
gotta be some
for that.
protection for the buyer.
Yeah, so yeah, they have to disclose. They can't lie.
Okay.
You know, they have to say, you know, I have an offer of 260 from Long and Foster. You know.
oh, I didn't know
All right.
that, okay, that's
We're
good
going
to
to
know.
run down time. Buyer payment of both transfer taxes. Put that right in your remarks. Buyer will pay.
Right, and the additional provisions, right?
Right, buyer, and I don't think you have to hide that from the lender. They just have to have enough money to be able to do that.
Right.
But buyer will pay both transfer taxes.
So transfer tax is 1%, we're paying
1% or 1.25, depending upon where you are.
Okay.
So it would be 2%.
Two or
And then you
2.5.
better demonstrate that in your closing costs.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, good.
Because they need enough money to do that. That's big, that's going on right now. But don't you think this is good if you go over this
Absolutely.
before
It's all
you write
little
the
things that you can
contract?
add.
Before you write the contract, I know you're new, you're like, I don't understand, this is crazy.
You'll get there, Brianna, it's okay.
You will, you will, you
Welcome to
will.
the worst market. Oh my God.
It will click, it will click eventually.
Waiting for it.
It's just a lot of information.
Yeah. I'm like,
Welcome to Kill Myself.
Worst market ever.
Let me get a job.
White flag, you get a job, and Kmart doesn't even exist
I know,
anymore.
I said that the
Walmart.
other day, and somebody said
Walmart.
Kmart doesn't even exist anymore. All right, here, now this is, we use this addendum, repairs, corrections, look at your addendum. Yeah. Repairs, corrections required by third party.
Right.
Third party is the lender, or it could be the UNO.
Right.
It's a third
The
party,
township,
the
right.
township. And it says, this one we filled out, it said that they would, this is actually Paul's addendum, I printed it out real quick.
Perfect.
This is what he said, and it just says, typical of FHA. Buyer will be responsible for any repairs. So in an FHA offer, the buyer can do the repairs. We just had, Keith Parsons just wrote a deal where he bought it for himself and he said he would do his own repairs. So he was in there, and this addendum gives the buyer the right to go in before closing and do the repairs. Now, but what's the problem? You don't know what they're gonna be.
Right.
But take a look at the house, you know? Does it need paint, paper? Does it need, is it 60 amp fuse boxes? You're not going FHA, by the way, on 60 amp fuse boxes. It's just, the buyer, the seller would have to change everything out with that. Hot water heater, they want that little valve extension. If you were smart right now, you know what you do? You go out of here and you go to a computer and you Google what are the typical FHA repairs in Pennsylvania. What their standards or whatever, and you can see what they're asking for, all right? And then 8. Okay, so you got that addendum, right? You know what you're doing with that?
Yes.
We just used it. The buyer said he'd go up to $2,500. Buyer doing his own repairs, he'd go up to $2,500. And it was an FHA offer against a conventional offer. And the offer was this, $5,000 over asking with this addendum, and he said he'd do UNO repairs. That was an agreement sale. But they say you can't throw this on, can you imagine going over all this with people the day, okay, I'm gonna write the agreement of sale. Oh, by the way, how about this? How about that? How about this? How about that? You can't do that.
And you gotta make sure they have the money to do these
Right.
things, right? They have, you wanna make sure they have the money.
Yeah, I mean, this
Because
gal
if they're putting everything down for
really
their
wanted this
deposit, then
house.
where are they coming out with this money?
And so we went in with, you know, we went in with everything we could go in with.
Guns blazing and they got
Right,
it, so that's
exactly.
good.
We went in
Good.
with guns blazing
Well,
on this.
last night, I got the call that we were the number one bid, but they had a counter and it was about an appraisal shortfall. And I'm like, he can't cover whatever because I know what he has, but I was like, let me see if we can go up to a certain point and maybe
Right.
change his down payment a little bit. So I called Bruce and I was like, hey, can we maybe reduce his down payment by $10,000 and free up that $10,000 in
Right.
cash?
Right, you can
So
do
that he can cover up to 10,000,
Right.
and they accepted it.
Yeah, so see, and that was this addendum.
Mhm.
The next one here. Appraisal contingency, and you've got these choices, and we just went over this in breakfast with your broker. We've gone over this addendum, guys. I think Christina, Dominic, Barb, me, we've gone over this like 10 times. But if the buyer doesn't have any money, then you use number 1 in this. that's it, they can only pay that much and that's it. But if they're willing to make up what we call the appraisal gap, you would use two, and you would choose which one. And I'm not gonna read them, but one of them makes up, one of them would say they would put more money up front to make up the appraisal gap. These are all addendums. They all go at the bottom of the agreement of sale, so under affiliated services addendum, escalation clause addendum, what are the others? Post-settlement possession, give them a week leave. Appraisal contingency addendum, you put them all in the contract. But, did we do it all?
Yep.
Buyer will obtain the UNO, that goes in the contract. Buyer will, I just wrote, buyer will, obtain a conditional use and occupancy, at the buyer's expense, prior to settlement. And then, according to law, I guess it's law, the seller or the buyer, if they take a conditional UNO, and this is what contractors do, and your buyer can do it, they have 1 year, thanks to the Suburban West Alliance, right? They fought this with some of these nincompoops out there.
It's supposed to be a year, but you have municipalities that are saying like 60 days and 90 days, so
But
if you
isn't
do
the
get
law
those,
a year?
the law is 12
Fight it.
months, 12 months from the settlement date.
Right, right, that the buyer has to do the repairs. But don't forget, it's called a use and occupancy, and the big word there is occupancy. You're not supposed to be moving in if you don't have a UNO, but this conditional UNO overrides that, and they can move in and do the work while they're living there. Questions?
No, this was great, thank you,
Yeah.
Marsha.
Buyer closing costs, do it before you send the contract,
What's up, Mom?
or we will be looking at you, Your Honor, hi. Hi, Your Honor. Sorry, I blew it. And that's it. Thanks, Matt.